We're going to hear three of these early Easter morning encounters, one at a time. And to hear them more freshly and be able to enter into them more personally, let's hear from a different translation than usual, the Message paraphrase. So, from the beginning of the last chapter of Matthew, after the Sabbath, as the first light of the new week dawned, Mary Magdalene and the other Mary came to keep vigil at the tomb. Suddenly the earth reeled and rocked under their feet as God's angel came down from heaven, came right up to where they were standing. He rolled back the stone and then sat on it. Shafts of lightning blazed from him. His garments shimmered snow white. The guards at the tomb were scared to death. They were so frightened they couldn't move. The angel spoke to the women. "There is nothing to fear here," he said. "I know you're looking for Jesus, the one they nailed to the cross. He is not here. He was raised, just as he said. Come and look at the place where he was placed. Now get on your way quickly and tell his disciples, he is risen from the dead. He is going on ahead of you to Galilee. You will see him there." The women, deep in wonder and full of joy, lost no time in leaving the tomb. They ran to tell the disciples. This first story begins with a visit to the cemetery because a very dear loved one has died. And a few closest to him come early enough so that no one else will be there. Mark and Luke add that these 2 or 3 women brought spices to anoint the body, to honor the Lord. Now, they left home with no question that there was going to be a body for them to anoint. The only thing they were not sure of was whether they would have a hard time getting in because of a door of stone possibly blocking the entrance. But just as Mary and Mary number 2 arrived, or just before, there was an earthquake. Very short, very, very localized. Now, little did they know there must have been a much bigger quake beyond the earth. Somewhere, somehow, in the spiritual realm, there was a cataclysmic shakeup. The Bible gives us several hints of that. Colossians says that through the cross and resurrection, the unseen powers and authorities were disarmed. Revelation says that the accuser and deceiver was hurled down. Ephesians says that, and Philippians as well, that Jesus was raised from down at the deepest part of the grave all the way up, far above any other ruler, seated at the top most exalted place in the highest heavens. Most scientists understand the universe to have started, or we would say to have been created, through a big bang, the likes of which has not happened since. So Easter morning must have been the biggest bang in the spiritual realm before or since. But for those first witnesses to the scene, they had no idea. All they knew and saw was that something was strangely different, and it was upsetting, especially when a man with face flashing like lightning, sitting on top of a huge stone, explains, "He's not here. Look inside, then go." They were bewildered and trembling, Mark says. These women did not have categories for what was going on. Afraid, but filled with joy, as Matthew puts it. Ever had a case of emotions mixed like that, where head is saying, must be true. What else could have happened? Nothing else makes sense. But the heart may say, can't be. Nothing like this has happened before, ever. Fear and joy. Faith and doubt. Much of life has some mix of these for most of us, doesn't it? So, which do we go with? When, as so often seems, we don't have all the information we'd like, evidence is partial. The Marys got to see where Jesus had been. They got to hear good news from an angel. But before they got to see Jesus for themselves, they needed to choose what they were going to believe. So they left to tell the story to the disciples. Let's hear the next few verses. Then on their way, Jesus met them, stopping them in their tracks. "Good morning," he said. They fell to their knees, embraced his feet, and worshiped him. Jesus said, "You're holding on to me for dear life. Don't be frightened. Go tell my brothers to go to Galilee, and I'll meet them." Easter says, take a step of faith with what you have, with what you see, with what you know now. Then the Lord will show you more.